NBC Nightly News.
Tonight, free credit reports, but beware of what may come with them. Also, more U.S. troops for Iraq and some final thoughts tonight on NBC Nightly News.
John Cameron's wages.
Brett Huntley. David Brink. John Chancellor.
More troops. The U.S. to raise troop levels in Iraq by almost 12,000 as violence threatens next month's elections. Scandal, fraud, and corruption in the UN oil for food program in Iraq. Now a demand from a U.S. senator that Kofi Annan, the UN Secretary General, resign. Credit warning. Free credit reports online, but beware what may come with the package. And Ward 57, home to some of America's bravest soldiers who have to learn how to live all over again.
From NBC News World Headquarters in New York, this is NBC Nightly News with Tom Brokaw.
Good evening. The American military investment in Iraq is going up from 138,000 troops there now to 150,000. And the Iraqi elections scheduled for January are the big reason. The election date remains on the calendar, but success depends on a lot better security than now exists in that embattled country. And the Pentagon hopes the extension of tours of duty for some troops, the addition of other forces, will improve the situation. All this as the violent insurgency movement continues to be a dangerous threat. NBC Jim Miklaszewski tonight at the Pentagon. As for what's going on in Iraq right now, as always, it's a mixed message, and a big part of the current focus is the city of Fallujah, which was the unofficial headquarters of the insurgency until the U.S. launched that major offensive. NBC's Richard Engel once again in Baghdad tonight with an update on what's ahead for Fallujah. Richard?
Tom, I'm just back from Fallujah. There are still some isolated insurgents in the city, and on every block, at least one building is completely damaged. Many others are badly damaged. So far, the plan is for most of the city's 250,000 residents to return in stages. At first, only a few thousand will be let in. They'll be fingerprinted, given a retina scan, and then an ID card, which will only allow them to...
Richard, what's the latest on the election? What's the thinking there about the schedule?
Today, for the first time, the Iraqi government issued television campaign ads encouraging people to register to vote. But it's
NBC's Richard Engel once again for us tonight in Baghdad. Now to that scandal surrounding the UN's oil for food program. It was supposed to help the Iraqi government buy food and medicine while under international sanctions. But investigators say the program was abused to the tune of billions of dollars by Saddam Hussein and others. Now, a leading United States senator in the investigation in Congress, Republican Norm Coleman of Minnesota, is saying that UN Secretary General Kofi Annan should resign because the fraud took place on his watch. More on this story tonight from NBC's Andrea Mitchell.
The call for Kofi Annan's resignation comes after allegations of more corruption in the UN's oil for food program. Andrea Mitchell, NBC News at the United Nations.
There were some tense moments today in Haiti while Secretary of State Colin Powell was meeting with leaders of that country. Suddenly, gunfire erupted near the presidential palace where they were gathered. No one was hurt. Powell was never in danger. It still is unclear whether the shots were fired at or just near the palace. President Bush, for his part, was trying to perform a balancing act today across the border in Canada, repairing relationships while at the same time not backing down on Iraq. NBC's David Gregory is traveling with the president.
Air Force One touched down in Halifax, Nova Scotia. To NBC News, Halifax, Nova Scotia.
Meanwhile, overseas in Ukraine today, anti-government demonstrators finally had something to celebrate. The parliament voted to disband the government of the candidate who has been declared the winner of the disputed presidential election. Although the vote is largely symbolic, afterwards the opposition leader, who claims the election was rigged, agreed to withdraw his supporters from blocking government offices. Here at home on Wall Street today, some strong economic numbers from the manufacturing sector and a big drop in oil prices helped fuel a big rally. The Dow at the end of the day was up more than 162 points. NASDAQ gained more than 41 points on the day. Up next, NBC News in depth tonight. The first day for consumers to access credit reports online. Free. But there are strings attached. what you need to know. NBC News in depth tonight. How's your credit? Starting today, in the West at least, consumers can get a free copy of their credit reports from the 3 agencies that maintain them. But there are some strings attached, like being bombarded with ads to buy products from the agencies themselves. How can you take advantage without getting taken? In depth, here's NBC's Ann Thompson.
Steve Noble is looking to buy his first home in Los Angeles. In NBC News, New York.
And we have some news from the Census Bureau tonight that shows if you're still in your 30s and still single, you've got lots of company. Last year, 1/3 of men and almost 1/4 of the women in this country between 30 and 34 have never been married. That's almost 4 times the rates in 1970. What are people doing instead of getting married? Well, they're getting educated, they're working on their careers, and they're living together without saying, I do. Still ahead tonight, some thoughts on what I've learned in this chair and on the road. And up next, a special story, a visit to Walter Reed Medical Center, where brave young Americans are dealing with injuries with grace and courage. We have more tonight on the war in Iraq, this time the human toll. We often report on the Americans killed. They now number 1,252 since the start of the war, but not always mentioned are the wounded, more than 9,500 in all. About a year ago, NBC's Brian Williams met some of them at Walter Reed Army Medical Center in Washington. This week, Brian went back to meet more of America's gravely wounded, who are in many ways learning how to live all over again.
Sergeant Carla Best is the face of determination. Young veterans only asked of us to thank 2 charities on their behalf, the Marine Corps' own Semper Fi Fund and the Fisher family. They build houses for the soldiers' families to stay in while visiting them in the hospital. These young wounded vets might just be what some say is the emerging next greatest generation. And with that, one last time, Tom, back to you.
Thanks, Brian. Don't go far because we have plans for you.
All right.
I'll be back in just a moment with some final thoughts.
NBC Nightly News with Tom Brokaw, brought to you in part by Aflac. Ask about it at work.
At 2 p.m.
Well, the time is here. We've been through a lot together, through dark days and nights and seasons of hope and joy. Whatever the story, I had only one objective, to get it right. When I failed, it was personally painful, and there was no greater urgency than course correction. On those occasions, I was grateful for your forbearance and always mindful that your patience and attention didn't come with a lifetime warranty. I was not alone here, of course. I am simply the most conspicuous part of a large, thoroughly dedicated and professional staff that extends from just beyond these cameras across the country and around the world, in too many instances in places of grave danger and personal hardship, and their family to me. What have I learned here? More than we have time to recount this evening, but the enduring lessons through the decades are these. It's not the questions that get us in trouble, it's the answers. And just as important, no one person has all the answers. Just ask a member of the generation that I came to know well, the men and women who came of age in the Great Depression, who at great personal sacrifice saved the world in World War II and returned home to dedicate their lives to improving the nation they had already served so nobly. They weren't perfect, no generation is, but this one left a large and vital legacy of common effort to find common ground here and abroad in which to solve our most vexing problems. They did not give up their personal beliefs and greatest passions, but they never stopped learning from each other, and most of all, they did not give up on the idea that we're all in this together. We still are, and it is in that spirit that I say thanks for all that I have learned from you. That's been my richest reward. That's Nightly News for this Wednesday night. I'm Tom Brokaw. You'll see Brian Williams here tomorrow night, and I'll see you along the way.
So thanks for the memory of Brokaw's expertise that enhances NBC's. We know he'll climb in any time. He does it in a breeze. And we thank him so much. Tom, good luck. Hope you stay awake till 7 p.m.
Nightly News is a presentation of NBC News. More Americans watch NBC News than any other news organization in the world. Tonight.
With a look ahead to NBC Nightly News.